Charlotte Dujardin, Olympic champion, equestrian icon, a rider who redefined modern dressage. But what happens when a golden reputation collides with controversy? This podcast is all about diving deeper into the equestrian world, beyond just the headlines. I'm Caroline Lindsay, horsesaddlerider.com. Welcome to the Horse Saddle Rider podcast, the place where I scrutinise the big issues shaping the horse world today. In this final episode, we gain some insight into the reasons behind Valegro's retirement and the struggles Charlotte experienced to stay at the top with him. My life would be impossible without my manager, or the mentor, or the groom. When my manager came on board, everything changed. She's ruthlessly efficient and has incredible business sense. It wasn't until I started working with her that I realised having 2 gold medals meant I was probably worth more than I thought I was. Yep, so getting a sense of her value. This year also saw a chance for my younger horses to step forward and for another partnership, this time a human one, to take off. In 2003, she decided to use her Masters in Business Administration to found the Mount St. John Equestrian Stud at her home in Yorkshire. This was the person she partnered up with. She asked me if I'd be interested in riding for her. So there must have been a price tag attached for that. The first dressage horse that she bought, the partner bought, was a 5-year-old German mare. Being young, she was still quite weak when I started training her, but I could already feel there was something in there, and after a few months I knew she was going to be a special horse. As with Blueberry, it felt like we clicked. She had that same desire to please. In May, I also made my debut with Florentina, the young horse whom she'd bought back in 2012. So still a young horse. For a while there'd been a question mark over her because she was so bolshy when she was being backed. Even though she was a great mover, there's nothing you can do if the willingness to be ridden and trained aren't there. So at what point does she decide that there are training issues? And why would she pick up a lunge whip and whip a horse so ferociously and relentlessly in the space of a minute when a horse doesn't even belong to her, is not going to be competed by her, and is being ridden by a young rider? I honestly think that situation could have turned out very grave indeed. And I hope that the FEI see that it's not just the abuse of the horse, it's the potentially dangerous, very dangerous situation that young rider could have been placed in. That is not what coaches are about. After a few shows on her as a 5-year-old, and with my hopes high, I decided to breed from her while she was still young and at the beginning of her career. They used embryo transfer, and now she has a foal that's a half-brother to Blueberry. So, yeah, great. Exciting, very exciting potential. On both Flora and Freestyle, it felt funny being back riding at little local shows. So she has to start from the bottom here with these horses. Going into the Europeans at Aachen in August, I was on edge. The experience I'd had there in 2014 was at the back of my mind. Again, Blueberry and I needed to pull in the big marks if we were going to get a podium place. So was it the memory of 2014 that was to blame for the mistakes I ended up making? Because I, for one, couldn't understand it. I'm normally so consistent. What the hell was going on? Well, Valegro has lost some form for some reason. The result was that although I finished with the highest score, 83.029. It was less than 1% more than Edward had scored with Undercover, not by the 5, 6, 7% that she used to. So we went away with the silver and the Dutch went away with the gold. So she's losing some sparkle here. Things aren't going well. Valegro is not on the top form that he was. She's got a silver medal. I was so disappointed, but rather than wishing or hoping it was going to come right in the special, I had to give myself a kick up the backside and go in fighting. So it was a fight with her. I wanted that gold medal. And when another rider came out with over 83%, it just made me hungrier. So she gets really triggered by competitive situations. I set out with my mind made up that I was going out to get her. Again, some aggression. And I did, coming back with 87.577, so 4% ahead, nearly 5 perhaps. And by now, day 4, Blueberry was beginning to feel tired, and the humidity was taking its toll. Blueberry and I were about to enter the arena, and I saw her score of 88.8% flash up on the electronic scoreboard. A camera operator suddenly zoomed in on Isabel, who'd ridden earlier and was now eating an ice cream in the crowd. As her face appeared on the huge screen, everybody started laughing. Hello, I thought, I'm trying to do a test here. So she wants the attention on her at all times while she's in the ring. Then my marks were announced. I'd beaten that rider with the high score, but only just. And as soon as my new score flashed up, the crowd started to boo. It was the worst feeling. I'd only been doing my job and I was being made to feel that I didn't deserve the win. At the time of prize giving, Carl was getting ready to go home. I begged him not to leave me because I was petrified that I'd be booed when I went to get my medal and couldn't think of anything more horrible. I didn't know if I could face that. Well, no, she just can't. Losing is not an option to her. And there's a very strong emotional attachment to winning, as I see it, which is very sad. It doesn't make for somebody being comfortable in their skin, and yet she keeps going out there, because she's a comparatively young rider, and she's winning, doesn't really know what it's like to not win, and not winning makes her feel very uncomfortable and unsettled. The seating was a long way back from the action, and for our lap of honour, we'd been told to keep to the arena and not ride out onto the grass outside. Well, blow that. I wanted to interact with everyone who made the effort to come, so I cantered out of the arena and round the outside, waving and being clapped all the way. So some disobedience there. Blueberry was now 12.5, and after Aachen, some of the press suggested that he was beginning to show his age. Really, all that had happened was that we'd had a few blips, and he'd been tired in the heat. When you're so much in the spotlight, everything gets blown up out of proportion. Being subjected to that kind of scrutiny is just part and parcel of being at the top. And it didn't affect the plans Carl and I had made. Blueberry had already had quite an intense year, and they decided that she would take Uti to Olympia at Christmas and save Blueberry for Rio. So it just sounds like it wasn't worth risking Blueberry not performing well. Drilling him to the point of brain deadness would have been counterproductive. Well, she did drill him. They would repeat over and over again until the movement was satisfactory. I wanted him to be enjoying the moves and working because he wanted to, not because I was making him. Okay, so why why keep applying this severely intense rain pressure? Why ride him until your arms are burning? When you force a horse, dressage starts to look ugly, not harmonious. And harmony is always the goal. So I just don't see harmony in everything she does. If there's one person I don't mind coming second to, it's Carl. Well, that's good. As he'd never won at Olympia before, I couldn't have been more thrilled for him. Even after London 2012, people would sometimes question whether dressage was a proper Olympic sport. Well, they're questioning it even more now since her whipping abuse video. It's not a comment that's ever been made to me directly. Well, I'd say the FBI will be mentioning it. But my response would be this. If you think it's so easy, you should jump on and try giving it a go. Well, yeah, but you have admitted that it's easier when the horses are trained to the rider's individual techniques. So, no, we've been told that it's not easy to just jump on another dressage horse and have them perform to the same level as the regular rider. I don't think there's any way I'll still be competing myself when I'm in my 70s. Neither do I. I'd love to, but I suffer with my back as it is now. Now, this is a big issue, riders riding while in pain. And it's the topic of my doctoral studies, where I've run a survey, and we can expect some 80% of riders to be riding, competing while they're in pain, or having developed pain as a result of riding for various reasons. So, riders who ride in pain, this is going to impact on their ability to function posturally while riding. They're going to have weaknesses, and add a saddle that doesn't quite fit the rider optimally. That's going to exacerbate the problem and just make it harder for them to communicate the aids, to stabilize and synchronize with the horse's movement. And research has shown that. I'd been suffering with my back before Rio. Well, what about her world-class team? Why wasn't her back pain addressed? Although we have to remember that it is more difficult for riders with back pain to stop riding until their pain is resolved. And also, this pain has been found to be mild to moderate, so not so severe that they can't keep riding. And also for professional riders, it's not really an option. And researchers also found that many of them, I think the number is about half of them, will self-diagnose, self-manage, and self-medicate their pain. Because back pain in athletes doesn't always show up as a pathology. My plan was just to do what I do for every test, which is to visualize myself going down the center line at home with Carl sitting at the bottom yelling at me to try harder. The first day I rode him, things didn't go to plan. He was stiff from travelling and incredibly strong. Here we go again. I had Carl in my ear telling me what to do, but what he was saying didn't feel right to me, so I was trying not to listen. She's quite dependent on Carl, even after 7+ years. Although it was hot, I knew that if I just kept playing with Blueberry and got him relaxed and listening to me, we'd be fine. If I left it, as Carl was telling me to do, I'd come back the next day and Blueberry wouldn't be any better. I knew him so well that I just kept going, but that made Carl cross, and as soon as I got off, he had a moan. You've got to listen to me. You're doing too much with him. Mm. Too much work, too much riding, too much in terms of overriding him as the technique. Not sure. You've got to listen to me, she says, because what it feels like and what it looks like are completely different. Well, yeah, I can vouch for that. Do you want me to win a gold medal or not? Stop stressing. Stop shouting at me. I'm shouting at you because you're not listening to me. Think that's Charlotte. So, things don't go as smoothly as we have been led to believe with riding these top dressage horses. I still couldn't watch them. This is Carl. I warmed Carl up, helped him with his final preparations, and then I walked away. So it just seems odd to me that Carl needs help with his preparations. What is it about the psychology of this sport that riders are perhaps, or these riders are dependent on somebody to give them a last minute tweak before they go in? Is it related to their pain? Do they need a distraction from their pain? Do they need to be reminded that they have to overcome their pain to get the job done? This is an interesting phenomenon to me, that this is what they need. It made me feel quite disloyal doing it, but I just can't watch Carl. My stomach churns and I get butterflies. Plus, I knew I had to focus and get myself into a good place for my own test a few hours later. So interesting that she can't watch him perform. Back to Blueberry. Half the time when I rode him, I felt like I was barely doing anything. Riding him was all about being light and sympathetic. Well, how could it be light and sympathetic if your arms are burning because you've got so much contact on the reins? Is my question. And as long as you were light and sympathetic, he just gave and gave. Well, yeah, he must have been screaming to have the rider be light and sympathetic with him. And I do find that when I'm working with riders, when the rider's posture has been adjusted and they learn to support themselves more and become more stable and synchronized, the horses, they just bloom and their movement improves so much. And it's as if by exaggerating the movement as being correct movement, the horse is saying, yes, this is what I want. This is how I want you to sit. I go well when you sit like that or do that. Team Silver was the medal we were really fighting for. That was the one they ended up bringing home. I admit that I was a bit disappointed. The perfectionist in me wants to nail it every time out. And I hadn't done what I wanted to do. We'd done so much, won so much, it couldn't get any better. Why keep going to the point where we started coming second or third? So she's getting near the point of realizing that Valegro is losing his form, and she resents coming second or third. That to me wasn't what I was doing it for. Blueberry had given me more than I'd ever dreamed of and owed me nothing, absolutely nothing. I wanted him to finish at the top, where everybody would remember him as the best horse there was. Now, she wanted to finish at the top too, I would say. Again, coming second, third, sixth is just not an option for her. The pressure and the expectation would keep building, and Blueberry didn't need that. Yeah, so there does come a day when the horse doesn't perform as successfully, and yeah, they have to take a step back, be removed from that level of competition, because bodies don't go on forever. I didn't want him finishing up as an older horse, not able to give what he used to, and open to all the criticism that would bring. Yeah, so it would be her that they would be criticising, and she doesn't like criticism, is what I read earlier. I wanted us to finish at the very top, and that was as Olympic gold medalists. And yeah, many riders in all disciplines just don't know when to stop, don't know when to draw the line or withdraw and finish at their best. Even though she knew Valegro wasn't at his best, very best, and potentially was beginning to decline. I said to Alan, presume the groom, if it all goes to plan and I win gold, I'm going to retire him after this. She didn't have a share in him at that point. So I presume she means she's going to not ride him after that. Presumably the owners would have decided his competition future. Then I walked out and the heat was like a smack in the face. It was over 30 degrees. Knowing how Blueberry was in the heat, I instantly started to worry. The nerves I experienced then were like nothing I'd ever felt before. Usually the bigger the competition, the more I want to get out there. Bring it on. This time my heart was pounding through my jacket and my legs were like jelly. I can't feel my legs, I said to Carl. I'm so nervous, I can't feel my legs. Yeah, because she knew there was a chance that she may not win. But she got 93.857% and first place. Just a month after Rio, I went to the national championships and won 6 different titles on 6 different horses, but not at Grand Prix level. These presumably are the younger horses that she was bringing on. I didn't want to be thought of as a one-trick rider, and now I could show people what I'd been doing when I hadn't been on Valegro. So just a minor detail missing there. When you ride an animal and you know they've given you their all and there's nothing left, it's the most amazing feeling. Yeah, she demands they give their all, is what I'm reading. It's not just when you're riding a horse that you build up a partnership with them, it's when you handle them on the ground. I love proving people wrong. I'd always wanted a jazz offspring. They're spooky, quirky horses and generally very talented. Yeah, she loves a challenge. But the first time I saw him in the stable, he was wild. He looked petrified of life. So this is so sad to me. Unless he'd been turned away for several years to grow and develop and hadn't been handled much, that's not all that unusual. And that's not always a bad thing, to just leave them to grow and mature as young horses. I think that was what made me want to buy him. Challenge. I wanted to nurture him and convince him living wasn't that scary. I wonder if she did. When I started lunging him and put the roll around his stomach, I thought he was going to explode. Okay, so why not? Why? Was this the first time he was lunged? His head went straight up in the air and he wouldn't breathe. So yeah, very frightened horse. If I'd got on him and been scared, he would have had a nervous breakdown. But because I got on him and made him feel as though he could do it, he believed me. Yeah, and that is part of being a strong rider, a mentally strong rider. I don't mean strong as in your arms are burning trying to hold them. One of the lovely things about the position I'm lucky enough to be in is that it means I can give something back. In 2015, I became a global ambassador for Brook, a charity that seeks to improve the welfare of working horses and donkeys. If you hadn't heard, Brooke dropped her when the whipping video emerged, and rightly so, in my view. So, how wrong they were. There have been so many occasions when I've been in the right place at the right time, that's for sure, and everything has fallen into place for me, yeah. But I do also feel that I've worked my hardest and grafted to get where I am today. That's not unusual. What I hope my story proves is that if you're dedicated and want something enough, even if people tell you it isn't possible, you can find ways and means of achieving it. Yeah, that's in your own words. Is that you, Charlotte, didn't stop at anything to achieve. I owe so many thanks to everyone who's made my career possible. And I don't see Valegro on that list. With Valegro, I was able to make my very own fairy tale come true, and now I can't wait for the next chapter to unfold. Well, we all know that's not going to end well. So that's the end of the book. Overall, I think this book is to me, it's a horrific account of what horses have to go through. Horses under her control have to go through, or had to go through, to fulfill her ambition to always win. I will continue with the FEI and the processes going on there. If you found this episode thought-provoking, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, leave a review. It really helps more equestrians and horse lovers find the podcast. You can also join the conversation on the Horse Saddle Rider YouTube channel. And finally, I'll be giving you more insights into the equestrian world. So be sure to come back and join me so that together we can campaign for better conditions for our sport horses.